Hello fellow travelers, my name's SG and welcome to the channel. Now today I'll be doing something a little different. I'm going to be doing a review on YouTube's own Peach Creek. I've been a fan of Ed and Eddy since I was little, and I have to say I was very impressed and pleased with what Peach Creek has put out as their first episode, and I had to show my support in a way I can, so here it is. I hope you enjoy it, and let's get started. First, let's talk about the animation, shall we? Since this is an animated project, it does feel necessary to talk about that as a main point. The animation is very dead on to the original story, to the original artwork from Cartoon Network, while at the same time improving upon it, having its own sense of style and nuance that gives it a unique flair. And even towards the end, we do see a return of the original art style from the cartoon through a dream sequence. It is very interesting and very unique. I gotta say I was very impressed with the whole way they set up. The models and the movements really let you know that the characters are who they're supposed to be. Eddy moves like Eddy, Double D moves like Double D, Ed moves like Ed, and even when they're leaving the van towards the end of the episode, you see Ed running like he did in the show. It's just a quick glimpse, but you see it, which is a very nice attention to detail, which I do appreciate. The aged up models of the character are very well done. You can tell each character is who they're supposed to be. You see even background characters match what you would think they would look like as grown-ups. You see, like I said, the Eds, but you also see Ralph in the background. You see Jimmy in one scene with Sarah. You see Naz even in the background of the bus scene. So the fact that you brought in so many characters and you have them have their little speaking lines to show that while they are grown up, they still are the kids we knew growing up ourselves. Very nice touch, and it will be interesting to see where that leads. The overall flow of the episode when it comes to the animation is very top notch too. You could tell that a lot of effort and love was put into this short, and it leaves you wanting more at the end of the day. It feels new and vibrant, but at the same time feels nostalgic, and I can't underestimate how much it excited me to see this, because it did feel like one of the later episodes of Ed and Eddy. And even the designs of their jackets, their clothes, you could tell is from the later episodes of Ed and Eddy, from Double D's jacket to Eddy's jacket. Ed's is the only one I think really had a different change, but it fits, and you can actually see him wearing that, and you can see his personality is still there. It's still very much present, which I very much enjoy. And I know, watching some reactions and reviews, that a lot of other people seem to get and enjoy it too. Alright, now let's talk about the voice acting. The voice acting for this episode was really good. You can tell that they got people that sounded almost identical to the original cast. To be more specific, the three Eds that are our main protagonists sounded very close and dear to their original counterparts. With Double D being our main protagonist in this series, because he's who we open up with, he almost sounded as if Double D from the show would sound growing up. He still has that bit of a whiny undertone, but you could tell it's matured, it's gotten a little deeper, but he's still Double D. He still has that kind of smaller tone to him. Smaller, high-pitched tone that we have relayed to Double D over the years. And the voice actor Josh Bott has done an amazing job portraying the character, and I can't wait to see what comes next, honestly, with that. And Sean Goodrich as Ed definitely did deliver the same appeal, while at the same time having to give more of an in-depth personality to Ed than we do see in the original show. And that's still interesting, it still fits, and it is going to be fun to see, because he looks like Ed's going to be a main driving force in the series, so we'll see how that progresses. And finally we have Eddy as Lou Pig, Sorry if I misspelled your name or missaid it, but I have to say that to me, it was perfect. It sounded like Eddy would have that voice over a while, that he would have more of a graspy voice compared to when he was young. Like puberty hit him a little earlier than the others. I have seen people sort of complain about it, saying he sounds too much like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, but this is, I think, is a good, or the perfect blend of Eddy growing up and still feeling like Eddy. He's a con man at the end of the day, and it's fun to have that gravelly voice for him, because we do kind of see that he would have that in the show where it shows him older, or if he does like an older voice, it's kind of a similar feel to it. So I think Low Pig is definitely the perfect voice for Eddy in this series. And we do hear glimpses of the other cast going forward, but not enough to have a full idea of their personalities or anything like that. So as the series go, I will probably do more reviews. But as for our three main characters, they are dead on, and I can't wait to see how they progress and their personalities really start to shine. Now to the meat of any animation, the story. The story in itself is interesting. It's taking inspiration from the original show, while at the same time taking its own direction and where it wants to go. Because the show originally is an episodic. It does not have a straightforward storyline, but does sometimes reference its original episodes. It will go back and forth in something like that, but for the main part of it, it's an episodic series, so there really is no defining story in it. This has taken that to a different direction. While keeping the original ideas in it, it has taken a more serious tone, a more straightforward storyline, and has kept it interesting in that sense. And this consists for a majority of the episode, leading all the way till probably about the 9.5 minute arc, where we do see the animation change. It becomes more surreal, and that in itself is interesting because, as some have noticed, that it reverted back to its original art style, as I said in the animation point, which really got people's head scratching, and the mystery really started coming out. And you can tell that this is going to be one of the more important points of the series, and we'll probably follow it throughout the rest of the run we're going to see, which is very exciting. Kept me guessing what was going to happen. I cannot say that it is slow at the beginning. At some points you do feel like the animation does drag a little bit, but it does pay off overall. It has a charm to it that we see in most reboot series of modern day, that does have this darker tone to it, an interesting vibe. You can see the characters are thinking about their lives. You can see Double D himself through the imagery of throwing away all the sticky notes that he was known for in the original show in the trash can, showing that Double D is growing up beyond that point, that he is becoming somebody different than who he was. Eddy, we can see that despite him sounding older, doing adult things like going to work and smoking and all that, we do see that he still has that mindset that he did back then, that he still has the want to be with friends, which isn't wrong, but you can see that he's still about money because he's working more than he probably is doing anything else. And Double D even notices that he has no ambition. Ed was the one that we really didn't see much of until the very end. We see that for the most part he is the same, with his brighter attitude towards everything, that he still listens to his parents about Sarah, that we still see, he's still Ed overall, until we get to the end where it looks like he's, spoiler by the way, trying to run away or trying to do something else. And even that ending clip kind of shows that he is a much more tragic character than we originally thought, that he may be more depressed and more emotional than he lets anybody know, which is not an out of nowhere idea, because we've seen that in the show, but this is the first time that it's actually put into action. This is the first time we actually see it become a main point in the storyline. So that in itself is an interesting character twist to him. We do see Lee Kanker towards the end becoming more of a player in the story, but we don't get their overall story in this episode. So that'll have to wait for like the next episode, but I can't wait to see like what's her overall point in this. What is the mission she's given by imaginary Jimmy, because that's who it is, and why did it choose the image of Jimmy when we see him in the earlier part of the show, and that does not look anything like him at this point. So the idea is going to be interesting. The storyline is fun. The characters are there, and it has a lot of mystery and love into it, and I personally cannot wait to continue on with it for the long haul. Alright, right before our final topic, let's talk about the references, because there sure are a lot of them in this episode. Now, the first big one we're going to talk about is, I'm sure, one that like everybody caught on at the end of it, was the 1 + 1 = Ed episode of Ed and Eddy being referenced in Meg Kanker's dream. This is basically where we see the Eds end up in a weird, obscure world where they can break everything down, reshape it, even down to the people, and it in the end being a dream of theirs shared. Now, I don't know if that was intentional. I'm pretty sure it was. This has so many similarities to what we saw in the episode with May, from it being just a dream that she's having, to even that it's a deconstruction of the world in itself, and even the fact that in that segment we do see the original character designs from the original show, and even people have noted the squiggly lines that covered the characters to make them look vibrant in the original series. So that one had very good attention to details, kept to the original themes, and even had an overarching reference of it being just a dream, which is a really good touch. Now, in that same scene, we do see that Jimmy is there to help give May advice, either to stop Ed from running away or save him from an incoming danger. That is not an Ed and Eddy reference, but it is a Twin Peaks reference, and where in the I think the Velvet Room it was called, the main character is being warned of something by a backwards talking person, and it does share the same vibe, and is a very interesting and fun reference to throw in there, especially since this is in a sense a dream sequence as well. So very fun reference, and it shows that, like in the original show, they do make reference. Even at the end of the episode, we get the subtle reference to the episode 3 Squares and an Ed, which references when Ed is grounded and his parents take down the stairs, and we see that in a much more emotional and detailed way than we did in the original episode, which is interesting and a funny little nod to that. We then have smaller reference spread throughout the rest of the short, such as the jackets, as I said before, being obvious inspiration from the last season of Ed and Eddy. The little bit about Johnny 2x4 showing back up, and them referencing that they never really called him Johnny 2x4 except like the first time they introduce him, or even the second time they introduce him. So that's a funny detail they did. The self-insert jokes of it being a remake of something from a long time ago is funny, but you know, there's gonna be those meta humor moments, and I appreciate them. They're fun. And there's so many more that I would really have to watch it over and over again, which I probably will shortly after this review. And if there are some that some of you recognize that I didn't point out, please put in the comment section. I would love to know more, because that would be fun for me to look into. But as for right now, that's what I have noticed in the bigger themes and the bigger references that will flow with the overarching story, and it's going to be a fun ride. So all in all, this was a really amazing experience. You could tell that there was a lot of time and effort put into this short, and that they do plan on continuing the story. I hope it doesn't take as long as it did to push out, but the wait in itself was well worth it because you could tell how much attention was given in this, how much detail was put into it. You could tell by all the voice actors, the animators, and even the main lead of this whole project, George Abington, really did put his all into this project, and it deserves the attention that it's getting as of this moment. And I am very much glad that I did this review because it gave me another chance to look at it, and I really appreciate it for what it is. Not just a fan project, but a retelling of a story that we've all seen, and you didn't expect to have this new underlying tone and detail and actual plot to the story. I do recommend that if you have not seen the episode 1 yet, you should right away. It's a fun ride, and I think anybody who is a fan of the original Ed and Eddy, or even if you're just looking for something new to watch, that this is definitely something that you can jump into easy. As I said, a little slow at the beginning, but the payout in itself is really good. So, thank you all again for watching my first review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't a bad shot for a first time. So, please come back again next time, and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you, and have a good one.